we had Senator J. Ann Major, who was about to make her contribution. The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable J. Ann Major.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Vice President, I rise today in strong committed support of the Smuggling of Migrants Bill of 2025, and I do so with more conviction than ever before, precisely because this bill not only matters to the security of our borders or the integrity of our nation, but to the very character of the Bahamian society. Before I begin my substantive contribution, I too would like to extend a warm and sincere welcome to our newest member of this honorable chamber, Senator the Honorable Deasante Small. At this moment, I am no longer the newbie in the room, as we are joined by another young and very capable woman. Senator Small, today you join a group of dynamic women in this honorable chamber. Notwithstanding the fact that Honorable Senator Seymour and Senators Barnett Ellis unfortunately find themselves on the wrong side of the political divide, the fact remains that when we come together as women in this room, we are all adamant about making sure our voices are seen, felt, and heard. So Senator Small, your appointment is yet another testament to this administration's commitment to including young people and young women in leadership roles, far more than any prior administration. And in doing so, you join a proud lineage rooted in the history and values of the great Progressive Liberal Party, a party that has long championed inclusivity, public service, and social justice for all. That heritage, that history, is part of your foundation as you take your seat among us. We welcome you, and we eagerly await your valuable contributions that I know you will make in this place. It's unfortunate that they're no longer here, but I wanted to recognize the presence of the members of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority who were with us this morning. Only those who know me know that in high school I was a part of GEMS, their mentorship program. GEMS stood for Girls Emerging and Maturing into Society. So the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority holds a special place in my heart because it lent to my foundation as a young Bahamian woman coming up. Mr. Vice President, I now turn to the matter before us, the Smuggling of Migrants Bill of 2025, a bill that has become the unfortunate target of fair, fiction, and political mischief. Let me start with the truth. This bill strengthens our ability to prosecute the people who profit from exploitation and human desperation, the smugglers. That is it. Mr. Vice President, we do not live in a vacuum. Our islands lie close to countries in severe distress, with political instability, violence, and economic collapse, making them breeding grounds for migrants willing to risk everything for a better life. This bill is a sober but necessary response to a real and growing danger that our beloved archipelago of islands are being used as a corridor by criminal networks profiting from human suffering. Yet instead of rising to the moment, the opposition has chosen the old tired road: fear-mongering, gaslighting, emotional manipulation, and following the lead of the Coalition of Independents once again. One could sometimes get confused in wondering who the official opposition is at times, but what is clear is that they've all fully embraced the philosophy of never let the truth get in the way of a good story. Mr. Vice President, while the government has been dealing with facts, data, and real-world national security concerns, the FNM and the Coalition of Independents have been busy crafting stories, spinning narratives, and feeding the public emotional fiction dressed up as patriotic concern. And so today, Mr. Vice President, we must set the record straight, not for politics, but for the Bahamian people who deserve clarity, honesty, facts, but most importantly, our respect. Mr. Vice President, our close proximity to the U.S. unfortunately makes the Bahamas a major transit point in a regional smuggling network valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. We've seen vessels overturned off Exuma, Bimini. We've seen children, pregnant women, and their entire families risking their lives. This bill gives prosecutors a standalone charge, the power to go after the entire chain: the recruiters, the organizers, the financiers, the drivers, the transporters, the harborers, the document providers. It casts a very wide net, capturing anyone who assists, enables, profits from, or organizes smuggling. Mr. Vice President, allow me to distill that even more. This bill focuses specifically on those who procures, provides, or possesses, or attempts to do so, fraudulent travel or identity documents for a migrant, those who produces or attempts to produce fraudulent documents, those who arrange the illegal entry or illegal landing of migrants into the Bahamas from or via a protocol state, those who conceal or attempt to conceal migrants in vehicles, vessels, create hidden compartments, all for financial gain, those who coordinate, fund, organize, and facilitate any part of a smuggling chain, from recruitment to final transport. This bill allows us to prosecute individuals even when the elements of crime occur outside of our territorial waters, on foreign flag vessels, in transit, provided that the Bahamian territory or Bahamian nationals are involved in the smuggling, and the smuggling begins or transits through the Bahamas. This is what we call modern legislation to address a modern threat. Mr. Vice President, the penalties in this bill are also some of the strongest in the region. Our Attorney General, Senator Pinder, would have spoken on this in detail, but it's important that I reiterate these penalties for the Bahamian people today. That includes up to 15 years imprisonment, fines up to $300,000, asset forfeiture for vessels, equipment, and proceeds connected to smuggling, and also prosecution of any attempts and conspiracies, not just the successful operations. Mr. Vice President, the bill is firm and the bill is clear. This is not about migrants. This is about dismantling criminal networks. This is the crucial takeaway here. The bill is aimed at the smugglers, not the migrants themselves. The migrants are not criminalized under this law for being smuggled. And this bill expressly preserves the existing Immigration Act and our penal code. These things didn't change, Mr. Vice President. Those who entered the Bahamas illegally or are overstaying or who use false documentation still remain liable to fines, penalties, prosecution under our existing immigration laws. At the same time, the bill includes safeguards for smuggled persons, ensuring safety and humane treatment and basic rights. I don't know why this is creating such a concern, because these rights and these privileges already exist under our legislation. This is nothing new. Mr. Vice President, it is critically important that we ground this debate today in truth, not tall tales. Because what we've seen over the last several weeks is the F&M and the COI clinging to that old saying, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And they have certainly crafted some interesting stories. We've seen the words immigration, Haitians, and organic Bahamians turn into political buzzwords, deliberately chosen to inflame, to divide, and to mislead the Bahamian people. Words meant to stir fear instead of presenting facts. Words meant to distract instead of dealing with the real issues, which is that human smuggling is dangerous, it's criminal, and it's a transnational operation that Bahamians are also the victims of. And for that, Mr. Vice President, I cry shame on them for going to such lengths to mislead and misinform the Bahamian people. We are better than that as parliamentarians, as legislators, as policymakers, and certainly as colleagues. I understand in politics there's inevitable controversy, but I must reiterate something that I said months ago in one of my very early contributions in this honorable place. We have a duty and a responsibility to the Bahamian people to speak the truth. They are counting on us to translate and to deliver the clear message of what these laws mean. We cannot use these opportunities to gaslight and to mislead just to push our own personal political agendas. So, Mr. Vice President, I want to be very clear. This government is dealing with facts, not fiction. Let's deal in the truth. I stand here today to correct the record. So allow me to address some of the noise in the market. Facts over fiction, point by point. Fiction number one, this bill gives migrants status protection or right to stay. Nothing in this bill grants residency, citizenship, asylum, or legal status of any kind. There's no legalization, there's no amnesty, there's no right to remain, The Immigration Act remains fully intact, it remains untouched, it remains unchanged, and it remains fully enforceable. Number two, this bill weakens our immigration enforcement. The actual reverse is true. This bill strengthens enforcement. It gives law enforcement new tools. It adds a new offense, one tailored to modern organized smuggling rings. It empowers our prosecutors, and it fills gaps in our recognized framework. Nothing in this bill removes a single power from immigration officers, and I need Bahamians to hear me when I say that. Nothing in this bill removes a single power from our immigration officers. Detention remains, repatriation remains, penalties for illegal entry remains, penalties for obtaining and holding fraudulent documents remains, operational authority remains intact. So when I hear the critics making such a claim, this is not in error, Mr. Vice President. It is an intentional and deliberate misdirection. Number three, there's this talk that the Bahamas will become a free-for-all and a magnet for illegal immigrants with this new bill. Nothing could be further from reality. The Bahamas has stronger penalties, a broader jurisdiction, and more precise enforcement tools than ever before. The only thing this bill will do is make it harder for the smugglers, the criminals, to operate. Migrants continue to face the regular enforcement that they have under the existing Immigration Act. The opposition coalition, they repeat this lie because fear travels faster than the facts. Fiction number four, the migrants and smugglers will be treated the same way. Smugglers are charged as criminals, while the migrants remain subject to the Immigration Act. This is not softness, as they like to say. This is what we call targeted enforcement against the masterminds. But again, criminal migrants sounds more dramatic than criminal smugglers. So our critics choose drama over the truth. Finally, fiction number five is that this bill is going to replace the Immigration Act and remove existing powers or penalties. As if I haven't made that clear up to this point. That is absolutely false. This bill supplements the Immigration Act. It does not repeal it. It does not replace it. It does not reduce the penalties under it. It broadens our enforcement capacity. So when our critics, the F&M and COI, cry softness and amnesty and open borders and free for all, know this. This is not a policy debate. That's what we call political theater. Why? Because again, fear travels faster than the facts. Emotions spread faster than evidence. And a good story, however false it may be, it often sells much better than the truth. Which brings me back to where I started and this administration's focus. Facts over fiction. Let us take this a little bit further, Mr. Vice President, because the hypocrisy here is not subtle, it is stark. The leader of the opposition has said they will repeal this legislation if elected. But if it's one thing we know they know how to do is dangle these promises over the heads of the Bahamian people. Let's consider the F&M's recent pass. They promised to remove VAT, yet as soon as they got in power, they increased it. They're promising now to build somewhat 2,000 homes a year if elected, yet they didn't build a single home during their last stint in office. On top of that, you have the sitting member for St. Anne's who admits there is no plan. But he says, and I quote, the realities are known, but we're supposed to rely on that promise. They are promising to deport tens of thousands of immigrants, but have not brought forward any actual plan on how this will be achieved. No mention of capacity, funding, manpower, or infrastructure to meet this wild target. Our Senator Henfield today even questioned how we met our numbers in the in the amount of immigrants we've repatriated, but somehow they're going to exceed that. The same infrastructure, right? For the sake of argument, though, let's pay attention to one promise in particular, that promise that they will repeal this bill if elected. They plan to repeal a bill that is seeking to dismantle a criminal enterprise, a bill that imposes harsh penalties on smugglers and those who profit financially from such activity. So ask yourselves, what, or rather who, are they really trying to protect here? The Attorney General has pointed out where the opposition's focus was in 2021. The last time they were in office, the last time the very persons who are saying they're prepared to lead this country were in office, making promises today. They've been there all along. I always wondered where the talk of the asylum bill came from, because I'm like, the bill is called the smuggling of migrants bill. Now, we found out today where it came from. When they now stand in this house decrying this bill for encouraging migration, for allowing illegals to stay, for opening borders, the Bahamian people must see the contradiction. The rhetoric is loud, but their record is silent. Their promises are big, but their delivery is small. Mr. Vice President, with that being said, let me be clear about this administration's record. We have ramped up repatriations by repatriating more migrants in 3 years than they did in the 5. We've strengthened our immigration department's processing capabilities. We've expanded manpower. We've prioritized swift, efficient repatriation of illegal migrants. We've targeted the shanty towns, demolished illegal structures at a pace that far exceeds their record when they were in office. Our enforcement operations have increased in frequency and effectiveness. We've acted where the previous administration simply tolerated or turned a blind eye. But we have also recognized that enforcement and deportations alone are not enough. Without a dedicated law targeting smugglers themselves, the masterminds, we leave a critical gap, and this bill now closes that gap. I cannot help but to see the irony here, Mr. Vice President. The same opposition that repeatedly asks, what is the government doing about immigration, is now suddenly terrified when the government actually tries to strengthen the law. You can't have it both ways, as my good Senator Small said earlier. As I close, Mr. Vice President, I say to the Bahamian people, do not be swayed by those who have not even read the bill that they're attempting to criticize. Do not be swayed by the people who cannot even get the current name of the bill correct. Do not be swayed by the fear-mongering, the buzzwords, and the sound bites deployed not to inform, but to inflame, not to clarify, but to confuse, not to foster unity, but to divide. Reading and understanding is fundamental, because without understanding, commentary becomes nothing more than noise, and misleading the public becomes far too easy, and we've seen that. I stand firmly in support of this bill, not because it's politically convenient, but because it is morally necessary and nationally urgent. This government chooses facts over fiction. We choose law over fear. We choose action over empty rhetoric. We choose the protection of our borders, the protection of human dignity, and the protection of our sovereignty. So today, Mr. Vice President, I vote yes. Yes to stronger laws, yes to safer communities, yes to shutting down the smugglers who profit from human suffering, and yes to a Bahamas that refuses to be manipulated by misinformation. We are better than fear. We are stronger than falsehoods. May God continue to bless this administration for doing the work for the Bahamian people, and may God continue to bless the people of this great Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you very much, Senator. The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable James Turner Roll. James Roll Turner.
Thank you. Thank you, and good afternoon, Mr. Vice President. Firstly, allow me to also join my colleagues in expressing our pleasure at the selection of Senator Small. She came in this morning, and I want to tell you that there's no surprise, but did a fantastic job at presenting the facts. I have said on many occasions in this place that there is no other country in the world I would rather be a citizen of. There is no place in the world that has women as beautiful as Bahamian women. And you are yet another example of the beauty and the brains that resides in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. When I saw the alpha females here this morning, I had to contain myself because, oh, the unisons of the green, the beautiful and just glowing faces reminds us that certainly it is better in the Bahamas. I want to say to a dear friend in Grand Bahama, a man who stands and supports the current government Mr. Steve Hanna, whose daughter got married on Saturday. I wanted to say congratulations to him because I saw a man who was beaming with pride after having presented his child in marriage. So we want to say congratulations to you, my brother. And then on the flip side of that, I want to say to the Pinder family out of East Grand Bahama that you remain in our prayers as one of your children were involved in an incident where apparently she was lighting the pilot light in the stove and there was a small explosion. She was airlifted to Florida and remains in critical condition, but we stand firm recognizing that God can do any and all things and will take care of your child. These are serious times, and as such, these are matters that are requiring serious and mature attention when we talk about migration, and especially illegal migration. This is not the time to be known as a gossip rag member or a radio entertainment personality who may be speaking out of personal political preference or acting as some form of an entertainment specialist. This is not the time for that. When we speak of migrant issues, it is not a laughing matter, nor should it be associated with fear-mongering. We ought to remain sober and intentional in our descriptions and advancements associated with a particular matter. Let me declare, this bill is a major blow in our fight against human trafficking and smuggling in our country. Plain and truthful, this bill targets those who intend to make money by bringing immigrants illegally into our country. Purely smuggling, smuggling of humans, and this ought to be a behavior that is penalized when caught. I am a Bahamian, and we demand that our borders remain protected. That's what all Bahamians want. No poetry, just protection and order as we see each new day. Now, as I listen to folks advancing fear-mongering in our country, the truth is that this piece of legislation has publicly been available online since it was initially tabled. So, Mr. Vice President, there are no secrets here. There is nothing hidden here. As many of my colleagues have indicated earlier, it is helpful in advance of a debate to provide the Bahamian populace with information about the changes proposed in any bill. But we must always be reminded to keep things in the context that it ought to be in, so that we understand the rationale for any amendment or any change that is being made. Now, we all know it is very clever and it has political associations to pluck out a few pieces here and there. And we have seen a lot of that in the public domain. But I have read and I have heard it stated publicly that the clear and declared goal of this bill is to reduce human smuggling activity in our country. And there is no sober-minded Bahamian who's going to argue about that. As we advance what this bill proposes, this will lead to reduced numbers of migrants, illegal migrants, coming into the Bahamas. And that is something that we have been discussing for years in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Migrant smuggling is a heinous crime that exposes vulnerable individuals to deception, abuse, and dangerous conditions. As you look at some of the vessels that some of these people come in, it is amazing that they make it as far as they make it. I've reviewed the bill, and it does strengthen our ability to penalize smugglers and make them accountable for the atrocities associated with their behavior. Exploiting people for money has been and still is a disgusting behavior. Participants ought to be penalized and penalized in a meaningful way. Just to be clear, you've heard some of it, but just to be clear, the law indicates if you assist with their entry and arrival into our country illegally, you will be penalized. If your vessel, be it boat, plane, or otherwise, is used to transport them, you will be penalized. If you procure false documents for anybody or participate in that, you will be penalized. If you help people transit through, because I've heard the nonsense on the street, oh, they're just going somewhere else. But if you participate in that and you facilitate their transit through our country, you can expect to be penalized. moving forward, we will be more likely to see smugglers facing much harsher penalties and persecution as we move forward with this, because this bill makes it significantly tougher on those persons who suffer such consequences. We all know some of the new penalties. When we speak of new penalties and fines as high as $300,000, you can see that this is a government that is not playing with this issue of smuggling. When we speak of prison sentences of 15 years, this is serious stuff, and we are saying to those who participate in this, if you do it, you will suffer. Now, we all know that the location of the Bahama Islands is what makes us a vital marine corridor for legal and legitimate trade matters. But the reality is, our location has also made us vulnerable to numerous types of smuggling activity. Mr. Vice President, I concur that the Bahamas has made a lot of progress in recent years under the leadership of Prime Minister Davis. And yes, he and his team ought to be commended in many areas. We've seen that this government has prioritized a number of things that are very important to the ordinary Bahamians. And smuggling, controlling smuggling into our country is very important to the ordinary Bahamian. I want to talk a little more about this migration issue, though. Because a good example of where this government and this leader's head is was exhibited in 2022. Many Bahamians know that the Prime Minister has done a very good job. But while facing significant international pressure, he has been able to strengthen and maintain appropriate relationships, while still standing firm for Bahamian sovereignty. And that is no easy task. Be reminded that many of our friends, some 20 countries, signed on to a declaration, but our Prime Minister, knowing the size and knowing what is required of the Bahamas, stood tall and resisted signing that because he indicated that our country could not bear the burden of accepting migrants or refugees. Mr. Vice President and Bahamians, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. The position is the same. All we're saying with this bill is for those who are engaging in this illegal activity, if you are caught, you will pay a price. Many of my fellow Bahamians have asked if we were amending or changing the laws that can lead to an adverse effect on Bahamians. I stand before you today saying a resounding no. The answer is no to that. This law in no way puts any Bahamian legitimately operating and abiding by the laws in any negative position. But oh, for the convicted smuggler, life can be changed, and it will be changed drastically. Now, I want to quote something here. A few weeks ago, the Attorney General gave some comments, and I could not put this clearer. So I want to read exactly what he said. I've shared this with many folks in Grand Bahama already. And I quote him: "This bill debated does not give migrants any new right to enter the Bahamas, to remain in the Bahamas, or to receive any legal status in the Bahamas. It did not take away any power that we have under the Immigration Act to arrest, detain, charge, or remove people who are here in breach of our laws. Again, nothing has changed. We're only toughening it for the criminals." Continuing, "The purpose of the bill is not to change who is allowed to stay. Its purpose is to give us sharper tools to go after the criminal smugglers who profit from exploiting desperate people and who add to the number of people in our country without legal right to be here." End quote. Bahamians, you're going to be all right. This law does not affect us adversely. Now, if you're engaging in illegal activity, yeah, you have reasons to be concerned. I quoted that because it's very clear what the government intends. Mr. Vice President, migrants on board smuggling vessels can still be detained. They can still be charged with immigration offenses. And they can still and still will be deported in accordance with our existing immigration laws. We're not getting soft on anything. The government is getting firmer. This bill says that migrants are entitled to humane treatment. And I heard some stuff in the public domain about that. But that's not true. That's not new. That is not new. Humane treatment has always been the way we have treated migrants coming into the Bahamas. Nothing has changed there. But it does make it very clear. Because surely vulnerable persons, such as children, pregnant women, people with serious medical needs, ought to be handled with a certain care. And I know people have said in the public domain, oh, you can pick out this one, you can pick out that one. Maybe they need a heart transplant. Maybe they need this. Do you really believe you can come into a vessel and be able to declare that you need a heart transplant, and in the Bahamas we can be able to give you a heart? Let's stop. Now, listen, let's be real. Let's be real. Because for those who can afford it, those who can orchestrate it, it just doesn't happen that way.
No.
Yeah. Listen, there's Mr. Vice President, there's a practical end to everything, you know. There is a practical end to everything. If the Bahamas, listen, if the Bahamas were the mecca of being able to do those things, we would be able to easily advance such things and earn a lot more by doing it. But practicality, common sense tells you that that will not happen. It cannot happen. Mr. Vice President, sometimes common sense simply needs to prevail. Every now and then we talk about some things and we talk about philosophy. But I am reminded that there are many things that sound idealistic, but they are not realistic. Mr. Vice President, this bill is not an invitation for some floodgate of nonsense to occur. The laws of our land as relates to legal and illegal migration still apply. Nothing has changed.
Nothing.
As such, I do stand and support the Smuggling of Migrants Bill 2025 because it simply protects Bahamians. Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and may God Almighty continue to keep his hands on this great country known as the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Thank you, Senator. As many opposition. The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Reuben Ramming.
People with dignity, man. What are you talking about? Put your beer on and drink.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. These are indeed mentally and tiring times. It is amazing how what a web we weave when first we try to deceive. I just want to say welcome to our newest senator. And congratulations to her husband who was in the gallery. I appreciate you, and you did a wonderful presentation. You did a wonderful presentation this morning. You know, I was a Bahamian, and boy, this thing is just tiring. I serious dread. It's just tiring. And all the confetti thrown in the air and distractions, they ain't helping the situation at all. And quite frankly, even the ones thrown in the air today. But first, you know, we got to address the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is we saw this draft bill presented by the AG. And I don't know if AG could be clarified or have some other meaning to the acronym other than Attorney General, because it could be an arrogant grave digger, but we know the AG is the Attorney General, but you got to take an AG to dig something up like this, because here it is, a bill that has not been tabled in the House. But let me tell you the truth about this. And the truth about this, raised by the AG, should actually be informative to the Progressive Liberal Party and their performance thus far with the smugglers and migrant bill. Dr. Dame, former Judge Dame Allen, Anita Allen, and the Law Reform Commission drafted this bill. And as a good government supposed to have done, this bill draft was reviewed and redrafted. This was sent out for public consultation. And it's so interesting that obviously, unlike the smugglers and migrant bill that made it, was tabled and was brought in despite Section 11, which the government decided is going to automatically pull out because it was a problem, but yet no one in their cabinet obviously spoke up strongly enough to stop that bill from coming forward, even with that particular section in it that you took out. But yet we see a whole bill that was drafted under the Free National Movement, that because a significant amount of cabinet ministers vehemently agreed with not all sections of this bill, and after the bill was sent for public consultation and the Bahamian people also rejected the bill, we did not amputate a finger, we didn't amputate a leg and present a hobbling bill back to the people. Certainly, yes, like the AG said, this is what, how much? Over 100 pages. We didn't dissect it and pull out a Section 11. What the F&M government did to the bill was they actually killed this bill before it even came to light of day. And it took an AG an aggravated grave digger, to go down and pull up a bill instead of learning from the lesson that when you have members of your caucus in cabinet rejecting a bill, a leader of the cabinet, which is a prime minister, supposed to pay heed. When you give it out for public consultation and the public have a problem with the bill, then you kill the bill, not amputate the bill, not amend the bill, not redress the bill. You kill the bill. So what was actually presented by the AG is actually a slap in his very own face. And the fact that you could break cabinet protocol by going through a loophole or using the exemption and the privilege of this honorable house, the Senate, to cause you to break a law in cabinet, then I want to say to all the media out there, yeah, go ahead and interview all the former cabinet ministers under the F&M and ask them if what Ruben Raming is saying is true. Because obviously, unlike y'all, either all y'all agree to Section 11 and everything in this bill and brought it before the people, and when the people complained, did not have the decency to even pause and say, let me give it some more time and come back again. If you had so much faith in what you was presenting in this migrant bill, then why you didn't take the confidence to say, let me take time and let me explain to my people. You know why that's hypocritical? We just came out of a by-election, Mr. Vice President, and every single political party gonna start selling their promises. And they can go door to door to the Bahamian people. We listening to you. We listening to you. And they're gonna be amending their manifestos and their platforms and their promises and everything else. And if the Bahamian people have a voice about the bill, just because you are in power, you should still have the decency and the respect. And if you had the internal fortitude and believe so much that what you was doing was right, then why you want to force something when you still have the majority to do what you want anyway? give the Bahamian people the decency to explain to them, allay their fears. We talk about bad bedside manners of doctors and surgeons. We have bad bedside political manners. We're saying because we've been given an authority by the Bahamian people to run their state of the affairs, that means that we have no reason to consult. Out of love and consideration and respect, even a patient who may be illiterate, have no idea of anything medical, and is going through a heart surgery or any kind of surgery, and they have fears in them, the doctor with all his years of learning should stop and take time and allay the fears and explain to them why this is what we do and this is how we do it and why we should do it. But instead of the AG coming here and just simply truly trying to lay out and allay the fears of the Bahamian people, face them and cause them to believe and understand what you're trying to present to them, you come presenting foolishness. And you saw what happened to the PLP the last time they started dabbling in the political garbage bin. You got voted out. We're sick and tired of all the political games. We're sick and tired of always hearing we don't have no horse in the race. And then you look around and you find out that they not only have horse in the race, the whole special interest group, they have a whole stable. Yes, I'm talking about the gambling referendum. Oh, no horse in the race. But look right now, you get top lawyers for the gaming men in Parliament under the PLP. Look right now, they're coming in now as candidates and everything else. But yet when you ask the Bahamian people to give their opinion in a referendum that costs us money, time, and they said no, you turn around and say, oh, I wasn't serious about your opinion. All I wanted, hey, it was just an opinion poll. And even right now, in a bill that is causing anxiety in the hearts of the Bahamian people, you do not have the decency to simply say, man, it's Christmas. We could come back again after majority rule because we want to listen to the majority. How arrogant can that be? Bahamians have a right to be reasonably concerned about what's going on here in the bill. We have a right to be reasonably concerned. We have a right to be reasonably concerned. So when you look around and you hear Michael Pintard and the AG try to run, oh, he was in the cabinet and everything else saying, kill the bill, you know why? Because that's how the F&M do it. The last time there was, as you saw, the National Immigration Asylum Bill draft. The bill was killed because the Bahamian people had an opinion that was against the bill, and there were ministers in the cabinet who stood up. Well, what you doing? If you had the courage of your conviction, you could bide the time of another month to consult with the people and hear their cries. People are concerned when they look in this bill and they see so many times rights and 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 rights. And they get concerned, and it doesn't matter whether you think it reached to your academic level of thinking or your ability because you have power and governance, that they don't understand it your way. It is your job to make sure that people come along with you. I stand with what the new senator actually said as it relates to these things. That government only works when people understand. The newest senator come in here and set the record. The government only works when the people understand. You can't come in here drumming laws up that only lawyers and everybody else understand and don't give a care about how the people feel. You don't mind but the noise out there. You have a duty of care towards the Bahamian people to explain to them and help them to understand exactly what's going on. Because when they look at all these things and they see all these terms of rights, you need to understand. I look in the definitions in this bill, and they got definitions that goes for everything. They even they give a definition for article. They even give a definition for child. They give a definition for everything else. But where is the definition that actually begins to break down what the word rights mean in here? Where's that? And then you understand why people are fearful, because they are left to interpret something all by themselves and be shouted at by people who say, don't mind that, whatever we do, it is right. People have a right to be fearful. When you go into our hospitals and most medical care, almost 1/3 of them are done on persons with illegal backgrounds. And we right now suffering all kind of hell in our hospitals, with people being in the hallway, medications being short, budget is, money being there. And then you're going around and turning around and you running on by the F&M and VAT. We had more exemption in the history of VAT. You going and putting VAT on the same medical care, all the prescription medicine, on the surgery, everything else that wasn't there. And we talking about resources. This isn't about the heart of the Bahamian people, because all the time this country has been functioning without any kind of real regime that is outside there outlining asylum and refugees. We've been functioning under what UNHCR, basically governed by international law. So although the bill even was rejected and killed by the F&M based on rejection from their own cabinet ministers and rejection by the public, it never was even tabled in the House in the history of the Bahamas. And even though the AG had to go into the garbage and dig up a pick of garbage to prove a point on how they're supposed to act, the PLP supposed to act towards the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and its citizenry as persons who was appointed and elected by them to govern, yet we still see here today, we're not addressing the fear. It is a real fear. It's a real fear. It's a real fear. You know what happens? When the Bahamian people speaks to their government and say, we need to have better understanding, slow down, and you don't slow down, you press the gas, it begins to cause them to wonder, especially 6 months out from election, what is so more important than the Bahamian people that you're going to push something on us that we have a concern with, that you're dealing with? Is the sweetheart more important than the wife? Is whatever reason behind this bill more important than the will and the understanding of the Bahamian people? You create and fuel frustration and speculation because of your own actions. All of this anxiety and all these protests could have been done away with if you had just humbled yourself before the same people you could be begging to on their doorstep, January and even now, vote for me. We want to hear from you, but you don't want to hear from them now? That's fundamentally wrong. If you are right about this bill, right would still be right even in February if you delay it just for public consultation, because you didn't. I've said before, I am sick and tired of this administration more than anybody else. Because why? How many times we've seen it? You pass this thing, the people from the pharmaceutical say you didn't consult. The AG, Senate, stand up in there, oh, we consult. How many times you heard me say, who lying? Because I'm tired. The Chamber of Commerce on certain bills wrote letters saying you didn't consult. Oh, we consult, we pushing this through. How many different organizations, I'm talking about non-partisan organizations on major issues saying why you're not consulting, why you're not consulting, why you're not consulting. It is a very serious thing, and this is so important. This is so important because right now, in my lifetime, it seems more of a proliferation of persons abusing our sacred documents, especially passports and other documents, that is critical for the running of this country. Things that give you access to voting and all the privileges to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas that belongs only to the heirs and successors of this country. People could come here and get a piece of paper in the church and all over the place that gives them all the privilege that we hold sacred. We hear before the courts, when you look in April 2025, three females from the passport office. Why? Passport fraud. You're going here again February, 6 Dominicans, passport fraud. In March is here again, a man of a certain background and his descent, passport fraud. And then there it is, we see a conviction, passport fraud. What I said was, It seems to be a greater proliferation. You don't understand it happened before in proliferation. A greater proliferation. What it means now is that in the minds of the Bahamian people, there is fear. So any government moving forward has a duty of care to slow down. Slow down. So when you hear the FNM says that they're going to kill the bill, well, guess what? That's what we do when we see something that goes, bills that come up, and after public consultation and among ourselves, there is a problem. But for you, it don't matter. We're going to do this. You see, because see you done vote me in, and I don't need you till I see you again some other time around. We see right now here again with this bill. I listen to some of the senators even denying the word, they even need asylum in the bill. But yet I hear the insulting words from the AG, oh, y'all ain't reading the bill, and y'all ain't reading the bill, and y'all ain't reading the bill. And it is mentioned in the bill. And quite frankly, there's a lot of great concerns around it, because you got to ask ourselves, why has every government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas been stenching and resisting the international community in incorporating this, what we call a non-refoulement into our laws? Why? So all of a sudden now, this Attorney General is so brilliant, and every single one, Alison Maynard gets in car, Bethel, all of them going way back down to Linden, all of them didn't have no sense why they've been resisting this thing. Why? See, it's a question, why the sudden about turn? I'm not saying right or wrong, I gotta ask you why. Why the sudden about turn to something that the international community has been pushing on the Bahamas for a long time, and every single government, PFP and FNM, has been resisting that particular term that surfaced right here in this bill? Why? Why all of a sudden? Tell me why all of a sudden. We need to know. We know quite well in law. Law ain't no joke. Bahamian people, most of us believe in capital punishment. The death penalty got overturned. Guess where it got overturned? In a place called Mauritius on one word. The interpretation of one word defined in Mauritius is what canceled the mandatory death sentence. You think laws is a joke? I mean, it gotta be a joke when you could take on a whole section, and I hope I quote Rain One Row correctly or paraphrasing, or we take that out because it's what is consequential to the bill. Then why was there in the first place? Why you have something there, section 11, that was causing all kind of hell, and you could take it out just willy-nilly and say, okay, keep rolling, nothing to see here. If it wasn't important to the bill in the first place, then why was it in the bill in the first place? Come on, man, unless that was some sort of red herring or distraction to distract from the real issues that is buried deep down in the bill itself. These things have implications that transcends what we look at here in the Bahamas. It's about what also appease international community. So you may look at it and say, oh, that, and then you look at it, somebody overseas and say, yeah, thank you. This is why we get it. We finally get the non-refoulement in place and all these things happening. And then you look at it right now. You look at this again. When you look at Part 3 and the greater benefits for the smugglers in terms of citizenship, people feel that right now. Right or wrong, it's your job to explain it to the Bahamian people why they are feeling that because of certain clauses in here, especially as related to medical stuff. Because why we do it right now, immigrants come, we put them in our schools. Immigrants come, we put them in a hospital. There ain't been a boat at sea we didn't give medical care to up to this day. That's a way of life for us. And quite frankly, we'd be critical if we don't do it, because half of us used to run to Miami to drop our babies over there. Some of us right now, before we get the catastrophic health care insurance, the only way you get really catastrophic health care when you can't pay the insurance bill over here, you go to the States and you go to an emergency room.
Just on a point of order, because I won't stand for Bahamian women to be insulted.
The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable James Roll Turner.
Just on a point of
Please
order,
state the point
because
of
I
order.
will not stand for Bahamian women to be insulted that way. No Bahamian man runs and drop no baby. I've yet to see one drop one. So to suggest that half of us go and drop our baby in where? Florida or someplace else? Don't say that about Bahamian women, Senator. Please, make that milder.
I accept you in a point, except the fact that no Bahamian man ever drop a baby. Smile, you said that.
Okay.
See, this is the thing when we get so caught up, in ourselves, we can't see the light and reset. A leader must be mature enough, like a good dancer, to pivot and reflect and stay course to his objective. Even though Brother Turner blatantly said something wrong, I know the heart of what he was saying. And I totally support his heart. And I think he understands what I'm saying, but I think that's probably to help me for somebody don't misinterpret, but we know exactly what I mean. Why the PLP couldn't just simply do that? Say, hey, my beloved people who elected me, I see what you're saying. I don't agree, but guess what we're going to do? We're going to take a couple dollars, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to explain this bill word by word for you. Because if the word rights was not in the definition, then I need you to understand that the word rights, even under international laws, have different connotations. Some may speak to basic rights. Some may speak to wider, broader points of rights. And even though there's an attempt in the bill to add a definition in the substantive body of the bill, it still should have been totally clarified. Let me sit with you, Bahamian people, and allay your fears as relate to this bill, instead of just all of a sudden, out of necessity, come shouting at us through sound bites and little clips in the radio. Because these things impact our way of life. This is part human life. Now here it is, even now with this bill. Some of the problems that arise in this bill, that when you look at it, at the end of the day, guess what it does? In its attempt to do so many things, there's no criminal penalties for the smuggled migrant as related to them remaining illegally. You know what's that? There's no penalty there's no penalty. There is no penalty there's no criminal penalty for a smuggled migrant who remains illegally. But there's major penalty for anybody who assists. No, see, listen here. All you need to, listen here. See, this is the problem. We need to want to hear. 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 And that's all I'm saying. We need to want to hear.
One more time.
When we come again for the AG, we need to learn to hear. So when we have things like this go forward, when we have bills like this circulating, when we have matters like this that comes before the Bahamian people, when we have matters relating to this, again, all laws and all efforts that we make in the upper and lower house is for the benefit of the people. Quite frankly, we are supposed to be by the people, of the people, for the people, and benefit all the people. This is what we do. We don't make laws for lawyers. We make laws for everyone. And if we make laws for everyone, then we should be able and willing to slow down where necessary and explain the point, especially if you have such great confidence that what you say would withstand the scrutiny of a little grandma or a little grandpa or a little somebody out there who ain't been to 13 years of law school. What you scared of? But allay their fear. You're coming into an election year. I think that would have been the smartest thing in the world to simply do, to get everybody on your side, to understand what you're doing and understand what you're saying, because I am tired of all that, sometimes the confusion I see in my country. And all it takes for us to learn to respect others like we want to be respected. So with that, Mr. Vice President, I rest.
Thank you, Senator. As many, Chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Randy Roll.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Pleasant good afternoon to all, and seasoned greetings to the entire Bahamas. First, Mr. Vice President, let me pause to join my colleagues and congratulate Senator the Honorable DeSante Small on your Beneby, on your appointment to this Honorable Senate. You know, being one from Elizabeth is also very pleased, as you know, Elizabeth is representing in this August chamber. Your elevation is not only well-deserved, but it is a testament to this government's commitment to empowering young people and women and ensuring that the future leadership of this country is in bold, capable, and diverse hands. As we continue this substantive debate, I rise today in a strong, clear, and unwavering support of this Smuggling of Migrants Bill 2025. Let me say this plainly, Mr. Deputy. This bill is long overdue, and it demands the serious attention of every person who cares about the future, security, and sovereignty of this Bahamas. I want to speak very plainly for all Bahamians and those on the other side.
Senators, we have
about
Senator Roll on the floor.
realities we face. It cannot be debated in this chamber, nor any community across the archipelago, that the Bahamas has battled the challenge of irregular migration for decades. Mr. Vice President, successive governments, as far back as the era of Sir Lyndon Pinland, have grappled with the strain in place on our resources, our national security, and our communities. Illegal migration impacts small islands, nations, like ours, in very real ways. It strains the public service. It complicates national planning. It places communities at risk. It threatens borders' integrity, which in turn affects tourism, foreign investment, and global confidence in our country. And let us be honest with ourselves, illegal migration is not happening in a vacuum. Migrants are not navigating these waters by accident. They are being guided, supported, financed, and transported by organized criminal networks. Networks that include, dare I say, Bahamians and people who are living among us. Mr. Vice President, in the simplest of terms, this smuggling bill gets to the root of the criminal organizations itself. This chain includes those who plan and organize, those who harbor and enable illegal migrants, those who forge documents, those who provide safe houses, transportation, logistics, and those who finance and profit from this entire process. Madam, Mr. Vice President, this government is targeting these predatory operators who profit from desperation, dishonesty, and criminal deception. This bill makes it explicitly clear if you participate in smuggling of migrants in any form, you will be prosecuted. Mr. Vice President, let me be equally clear. Yes, we have an immigration problem, but the migrants are not doing this alone. there are Bahamians who are aiding and abetting in cashing in. And if prosecuting them is necessary to protect our country, then so be it. This should not even be a debate. Mr. Vice President, I am so passionate about this issue because my own home island of Bimini that sits 50 miles off the U.S. coast, the gateway of the Bahamas. And while we have become a popular spot for tourists to visit legally, we have also become a springboard for smugglers to launch their criminal networks towards the U.S. When boats push off from Bimini, headed for Florida, they put the lives of migrants at risk. They put the lives of others at risk. They endanger U.S. borders and undermine the Bahamas' relationship with our closest allies. We simply cannot and will not allow our islands to be used as a launch pad for international criminal activity. The people of Bimini do not deserve this reputation and the trickle-down effect that can happen if we do not take action. Mr. Vice President, this bill aligns the Bahamians with international best practices and strengthens our cooperation with the United States, with regional security partners, and global human rights frameworks. This Davis government is not simply enforcing immigration law. We are upholding international commitments, building confidence with allies, and protecting our geopolitical standing. As a former consul general in Atlanta, I can say without hesitation, Mr. Vice President, if we fail to control smuggling and uphold international human rights laws, we put our diplomatic relationships at risk. We are a country less than 50 miles from the world's largest economy and one of the strictest immigration regimes. What happens in our waters has immediate consequences for U.S. homeland security, regional cooperations, visa policies, and foreign relations. Mr. Vice President, this bill strikes the balance between protection and obligation. This bill sends the message that the Bahamas is serious. We are responsible and we are committed to protecting our borders. Mr. Vice President, we do not ignore the humanity of migrants. They are people seeking safety, opportunity, and hope. They save every penny they have, hand it over to criminals, and risk their lives at sea. However, compassion does not mean turning a blind eye to crime. True compassion means dismantling the network that exploits them. Mr. Vice President, according to the Royal Bahamas Defense Force Commodore, 344 vessels have been interdicted since 2021. 11,791 migrants apprehended. That's just at sea. 163 of those vessels were intercepted heading towards or already en route to the U.S. Under this administration, and we spoke about it earlier, nearly 13,000 illegal migrants have been repatriated. These numbers demand action, not political theater. Mr. Vice President, the opposition has made every attempt to confuse this bill, suggesting it is an immigration bill, or, as we heard earlier, asylum bill in disguise. Let me be direct. What is more dangerous, Mr. Vice President, than corruption is the illusion of integrity. This is not an asylum bill. This is not a bill granting new entry rights. This is not a bill creating new pathways for residency. This very simply a smuggler's bill. But the irony is striking. For a group obsessed with conspiracy theories about passports on planes, you would think they would support the cracking down of smugglers and illegal immigrants. They talk about enforcement, but when their party was in office, they let migrant sloops land on Adelaide Beach. I don't know if you remember that. Near the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, called Harbor Base, without even being intercepted. They talk about attempting to introduce an asylum bill when the administration that they were a part of and actually introduced the immigration asylum bill that went nowhere. So the bill wasn't killed. They killed it because they understood that it had no chance in hell of making it anywhere.
Point of order, point of order, point of order.
It's Ruben Raming.
In the spirit of Senator James Turner rule, I cannot stand here and let the minister impugn the character of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, because the only person, nobody in the House, Assembly, Parliament, or government have the ability to let loose any sloop anywhere in the country, no less an Adelaide Beach, which is just meters away from the Defense Force base. I would like for him to rethink that in the interest of the same Royal Bahamas Defense Force that is needed to fulfill any parts of this bill and the service of which I'm sure he misspoke. In the interest of our great men and servicewomen, I think you want to rephrase that. Rejoice, rephrase that, please.
Thank you, Senator. It's not a breach of the rules, but Senator, you can rephrase if you wish.
Yeah. He misunderstood what I say, but, for the purpose of it, I take it back. All right, no problem. Mr. Vice President, once again, I say what is more dangerous than corruption is the illusion of integrity. Instead, they offer misdirection, misinformation, and confusion with no substance to stand on. This is not a party prepared to govern. But this Davis administration, this Davis-led government, has a plan, Mr. Vice President. While the FNM wants to play politics, this government is acting decisively. We are strengthening our borders. I heard, my good Senate colleague, Jayan Major, talk about it. We are strengthening borders enforcement. We are targeting smuggling routes. We are dismantling illegal shanty towns. We are enhancing international cooperations. And we are protecting the quality of life for all Bahamians. This bill is another step in a long-term coordinated approach to addressing illegal migration from every angle: land, sea, air, and finance. Mr. Vice President, we are living in a rapidly changing geopolitical world with emerging threats and shifting alliances. The Bahamas must be proactive, vigilant, and strategic. This bill strengthens our borders. It dismantles criminal networks. It protects vulnerable people. It bolsters international confidence, and it reinforces the rule of law in our nation. This is about security, Mr. Vice President. This bill is about sovereignty, Mr. Vice President. This bill is about stability. It is about standing up for the Bahamas. For these reasons, Mr. Vice President, I proudly and resolutely support the smuggling migrants bill. And right before I take my seat, Mr. Vice President, I just want to take this opportunity to wish all of my good people in Bimini and throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. With that, I rest.
Thank you, Senator. As many. The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Tyrell Young.
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice President. Good afternoon, Mr. Vice President. Good afternoon, all. Mr. Vice President, before turning to the substance of this bill before us, I wish to formally extend a warm welcome and a huge congratulations to the newly appointed senator, another female in our chambers, the Honorable the Asante Barnaby Small. I want to make sure we get all the names in. Yes. Barnaby Small. So I say I join my colleagues and the nation in welcoming you to this honorable chamber. And I say I know that with the job that I've seen you done before, and even in your private business that I've seen you contribute to, I know that you will do well in this chamber, in this honorable chamber. So welcome again, honorable member Small. Mr. Vice President, I would also like to send a special condolences to Amber and Nick Constantakis of Petty's, Long Island, on the passing of Amber's mother, Mrs. Marilyn Knowles. May her soul rest in peace. And now, Mr. Vice President, I rise to offer my support for the Smuggling of Migrants Bill 2025, which provides a strengthened and modernized legislative framework to address the growing challenges associated with migrant smuggling across our archipelago. The bill establishes clear expectations for conduct, clear consequences for those who engage in smuggling operations, and clear procedures for the management and protection of individuals encountered through these operations.
Into an illegal business model of abuse, negligence, debts, while placing extreme burdens on our small country. Mr. Vice President, colleagues, my Bahamian brothers and sisters, let's talk a little on strengthening border security and human security. This bill gives the Royal Defense Force, immigration officers, and police officers legislative support needed to pursue organized networks beyond the boat captain, track financial facilitators, prosecute recruiters operating within the Bahamas, dismantle transnational networks that use our nation as a transport point. It empowers us to follow the money, follow the vessels, and follow the individuals who enrich themselves while thousands of people drown during the passage as if they were animals. While our country is saddled with overcrowded schools, overcrowded hospitals, hazardous shantytowns, and far too much crime, in many cases, due to criminals being smuggled in our country and or illegal migrants' unemployability status. Illegal migration places too much burden on small island nations such as ours. Mr. Vice President, when you take a glance at what this brave government has done over the last 4 years as it pertains to immigration, you can tell that immigration has been a priority. For example, while speaking in the other place, Prime Minister the Honorable Philip Edward Brave Davis indicated that under his administration, there has been more than 13,000 apprehensions. My Senate colleague said he wants to see that in writing. And repatriation of illegal migrants in less than 4 years. He said he believes it's a record, and I believe it's a record as well. Prime Minister Davis went on to say that the accomplishments gained by his administration are a direct result of efficient operations, stronger coordinations between agencies, and investments in tools required to intercept migrant vessels before they reach Bahamian shores. Mr. Vice President, this administration have time and time again demonstrated our seriousness on this issue by making critical investment in our Bahamian people who are our greatest assets. The record will reflect that this brave administration has expanded manpower by hiring hundreds of immigration officers and Defense Force officers. Since the start of this year alone, Mr. Vice President, the government have already held multiple recruit exercises for immigration officers, many of whom have been properly trained and have been integrated onto the front line of the battlefield protecting our borders. Mr. Vice President, the fact is, even as we debate today, a recruitment exercise cycle is happening right now. And I encourage any young Grand Bahamian, Mr. Tyner, Senator Tyner, who is interested in joining the brave, dedicated, hard-working men and women of the Immigration Department to apply now. Your country is depending on you to serve. I encourage you, young people, throughout the length and breadth of this country to apply now. Mr. Vice President, as the government has built up the manpower within immigration, we've also recruited over 570 Defense Force Marine, as stated by my Senate colleague, to patrol and protect our borders. Mr. Vice President, for the first time in my adult life, I can say that the Royal Bahamas Defense Force has truly targeted recruiting young men and women specifically from the island of Grand Bahama. Over the course of this summer, under the leadership of Commander Valentino Rule, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force in Grand Bahama conducted a successful recruitment drive to enlist young Grand Bahamian men and women. The process lasted for 2 months. This, my colleagues, is expanding opportunities to build our communities while simultaneously protecting our sovereignty. Some seek to cause mischief and create mongering regarding such a sensitive matter. I wish to reiterate to the Bahamian public that in 2022, at the Summit of the Americas, as earlier opined by the AG, the Bahamas was placed under pressure to sign a declaration which was signed by 20 other nations in our region, agreeing to accept more migrants. But our country, under a brave delegation, said no. We refused. Following that event, the United Nations called on countries to suspend deportations to Haitians. And again, this brave administration refused to agree with that as well. So when fire starters walk the streets and talk about opening the floodgates, this administration has a strong local as well as international record of putting our people first and protecting our future, protecting the future of our country for Bahamians. So, it is fair for me to say that this bill is built on a very strong and very clear record of protecting our waters, our people, and our sovereignty. Therefore, I ask the Bahamian people, if you want fewer migrants in the Bahamas, support this bill, because this bill helps achieve that by targeting the criminal networks that organize illegal smuggling. I ask the Bahamian people, if you want smugglers to face longer prison sentences and heavy fines, support this bill because this bill delivers that. I ask the Bahamian people, if you want to strengthen the defense force, immigration officers' capacity to stop suspicious vessels at sea with clear legal backing, to confiscate assets and proceeds gained from the business of smuggling migrants, then I suggest that all and sundry support this bill because this bill provides that. Mr. Vice President, honorable senators, the reality is stark. As lawmakers, we must take into consideration that every smuggling voyage is a gamble with human life, and those who profit from these dangerous voyages care only about money. This bill helps bring that deadly game to an end. Mr. Vice President, we are a Christian nation, and as Christians, we must remember that all people, no matter what country you're from, are created by God, and the command outlined in the Holy Scriptures to love our neighbors extend explicitly to foreigners, sojourners, migrants, reminding believers that they were once foreigners in Egypt. Mr. Vice President, if my father, Mr. Fred Russell, was alive today, he would be 101 years old. I can remember like yesterday his stories regarding how he, along with hundreds of Bahamians, work on the contract, picking fruits in Florida and other American states in order to establish a better life for his and their families. My father and the hundreds of Bahamians were migrant workers, even though not illegal. I am so happy that he and his countrymen were treated with dignity as God's creation. That was only a few years ago. Mr. Vice President, this is indeed another bill that reflects good governance and responsible leadership. This legislative action forms part of the broader strategy by the government of the Bahamas that is rooted in border protection, enhanced law enforcement capabilities and reach, regional cooperation, and the security of our Bahamian families and communities. Under this administration, we are strengthening partnership with regional law enforcement agencies, the United States Coast Guard, CARICOM Intelligence Framework, and international anti-trafficking and anti-smuggling bodies. You know, I was just reminded that today we have an ambassador in place in the person of Ambassador Herschel Walker. And it demonstrates the confidence in this country and in this government by the United States of America as to the fact that the type of partner we are in this country and what we are doing in this country to ensure that our borders, our immigration policies are at the highest standards, I would say, at the gold standard. And so I truly want to congratulate the Honorable Philip Brave Davis for what he is doing in this country as it relates to immigration. This is responsible, forward-thinking governance. This is leadership that is keenly focused on readying our nation for the evolving threats and future challenges associated with the illegal business of smuggling. Who can disagree with that? Mr. Vice President, honorable senators, Bahamians under the sound of my voice, we must live what we preach. I believe it is always better in the Bahamas. And as Bahamians, we must never forget the human cost. Boats on top of boats capsize during these voyages. People disappear. Children are lost. Families perish. And if we fail to act, how can we sleep at night? How can we say it's better in the Bahamas? We become complicit, whether by silence or inaction, in allowing human suffering to continue without putting up a noble fight. And that is what we are doing with this bill. We are allowing our law enforcement agencies, our courts, to be able to put up a noble fight against smuggling. And so, we must send a clear message, Mr. Vice President, that the Bahamas will not be a playground for smugglers, nor are beautiful crystal waters a cemetery for the desperate seeking a better way of life. Today, Mr. Vice President, I call for courage. I call for unity on this piece of legislation. Let cooler heads prevail. I urge my colleagues across this honorable chamber, regardless of political affiliation, to stand with the government in sending a strong message and a unified message to smugglers that your operations are over in the Bahamas, to traffickers that your profits end here and end now, to the Bahamians, citizens, and to residents. Know that your government remains fully committed to protecting your borders, your safety, your future, your land, and your sovereignty. In conclusion, Mr. Vice President, this bill is more than just a legal instrument. It is a statement of our national values. It is the reaffirmation of our commitment to justice. And we cannot put this off because justice delayed, Senator Ramming, is justice denied. It is a statement that lifts and says to the world that we are a sovereign nation and we uphold human dignity. I fully support the Smuggling of Migrant Bill 2025, and I commend the government for the courage to advance this urgent and necessary piece of legislation, knowing that some would seek to cause mischief for the sake of partisan politics. Mr. Vice President, as we move closer to the Christmas celebration marking the birth of Jesus Christ, I take this opportunity to wish each of you and your families, as well as the Bahamian and residents from Inagua to the south, to Albuquerque and Grand Bahama in the north, a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I fully support this bill. God continue to bless our government, and may God continue to bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. As many. Yep. The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Ryan Pinder.
I want to thank you, Mr. Vice President, and thanks to the colleagues today for a lively debate. One lesson we learned today is the difference between a smuggling bill and a bill for asylum. We did learn that today, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to explain to the Bahamian people what they do and what we do. I think that's very important. As we wrap up, I certainly want to, as this is probably our last seating, wish all Bahamians a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, a Happy New Year, and look forward to a fruitful and progressive 2026 as we move on. And all of my colleagues as well, from Bimini in the north to Lizzie in the east, to Larnie in the west, and all the way down to my cow. Have a Merry Christmas and everybody enjoy a peaceful holiday. I want to thank again everybody for the debate on this, and I just want to remind the Bahamian people, this bill provides stronger tools for law enforcement and harsher penalties for criminals. And as I speak to the opposition, if you want fewer people in our country illegally, you will support this bill. I so move for the second reading of the Smuggling of Migrants Bill 2025.
It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a second time and committed. A bill for an act to strengthen border security and international cooperation to prevent and combat migrant smuggling, to provide measures for the protection of smuggled migrants, to prescribe penalties for offenses of migrant smuggling, and for matters connected therewith. As many are in favor, say aye. Aye. Those who are opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Ordered that the bill be read a second time and committed.
A bill for an act to strengthen border security and international cooperation to prevent and combat migrant smuggling, to provide measures for the protection of smuggled migrants, to prescribe penalties for offenses of migrants and for matters connected therewith.
For the second reading of bills,
There are none, Mr. Vice President.
Committee of the Whole.
Mr. Vice President, I move that the Senate do now resolve itself into a committee of the whole with Senator J.N. Major in the chair.
Is there a seconder? It has been moved and seconded that the Senate do now resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole with Senator J.N. Major in the chair. As many are in favor, say aye. Aye. Those who are opposed, say nay. The motion is carried. The Senate will now resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole with Senator J.N. Major in the chair.
Committee of the Whole.
Madam Chairman, with respect to a bill for an act to strengthen border security and international cooperation, to prevent and combat migrant smuggling, to provide measures for the protection of smuggled migrants, to prescribe penalties for offenses of migrant smuggling and for matters connected therewith, I move that the long title of the bill be agreed.
Second. It has been moved and seconded that the long title of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The long title of the bill is agreed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the short title of the bill be agreed.
Second. Second. It has been moved and seconded that the short title of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The short title is agreed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now move that clauses 2 through 36 of the bill be agreed.
Second. It has been moved and seconded that the bill be agreed in its entirety. Oh, that clauses 2 to 36 be agreed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Clauses 2 through 36 are agreed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now move that the bill be agreed in its entirety.
Second. It has been moved and seconded that the bill be agreed in its entirety. As many as are in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The bill is agreed in its entirety.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now move that the Vice President do take the chair.
Is there a seconder? Second. It has been moved and seconded that the President do now take the chair. Will the Vice President now do take the chair? As many as are in favor say aye. Aye. Those that are opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. The Vice President will now take the chair. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Vice President, I beg leave to report that the committee of the whole has examined the bill, having made no amendments thereto.
Honorable Senators, Senator J. Ann Major, Chairman of the Committee of the Whole, has reported that the committee has examined the bill, having made no amendments thereto. Third reading and passing of bills.
Mr. Vice President, I move for third reading and passing of a bill for an act to strengthen border security and international cooperation, to prevent and combat migrant smuggling, to provide measures for the protection of smuggled migrants, to prescribe penalties for offenses of migrant smuggling and for matters connected therewith, be read a third time and passed.
Is there a seconder? It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a third time and passed. As many are in favor say aye. Those who are opposed say nay. The motion is carried. Ordered that the bill be read a third time and passed.
A bill for an act to strengthen border security and international cooperation to prevent and combat migrant smuggling, to provide measures for the protection of smuggled migrants, to prescribe penalties for the offense of migrant smuggling, and for matters connected therewith.
Ordered that the bill do now pass and the title thereof declared to be Smuggling of Migrants Act 2025.
There are none, Mr. Vice President.
Consideration of House amendments. Resolutions.
Mr. Vice President, I intend to move two resolutions, and we plead the concurrence of the side opposite. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that we can move directly into the resolutions. We think they are non-controversial, so I will read both resolutions and seek the concurrence of the side opposite that we debate them as one. We don't expect the debate to be long. As I said, Mr. Vice President, these are fairly straightforward. They are. Before I read the text of the resolution, I will just give a description. There is one where we are seeking, the government of Bahamas seeking to sell to Bahamas through its company that I will describe in the text of the resolution, a parcel of land, approximately 2 acres of land, situated on West Bay Street, just to the west of Scotiabank. And in short, for the purposes of the expansion that they plan for the Malia site. And the second resolution deals with land, a redirection of the road at Rock Point on West Bay Street, which is an area in the vicinity of Sea Beach Estates, where the government is exchanging some land with a private owner, redirecting the road, and the owner, the private owner, intends to do a development. We might be familiar with that area that's always very severely flooded when we have rainfall, and so the idea is to redirect the road, build a proper road, and the developer will then exchange some land. I'll go into all of the details with the government, and develop that portion of the property. And so, Mr. Vice President, I will first deal with the matter at Bahamas, and the resolution reads as follows. Whereas the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, hereinafter referred to as the Treasurer, a corporation sole established under Section 14.1 of the Ministry of Finance Act, Chapter 23, Revised Statute Law of the Bahamas 2000, hereinafter referred to as the Act, is seized in fee simple in possession of the hereditaments noted, more particularly described in the schedule hereto. And whereas on the 16th of October 2019, a supplemental heads of agreement, hereinafter referred to as the 2019 SHOA, was executed between the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, hereinafter referred to as the government, and CTF BM Holdings Limited, CTF BM Operations Limited, Perfect Luck Assets Limited, Perfect Luck Assets Number 1 Limited, Perfect Luck Assets Number 2 Limited, and Perfect Luck Assets Number 3 Limited, and Perfect Luck Gulf Limited, hereinafter collectively referred to as the project company. And whereas pursuant to Section 2.1 of the 2019 Supplemental Heads of Agreement, the government was obligated to convey the said hereditaments to an entity designated by the project company, free from liens and other encumbrances for inter alia the proper redevelopment of the site. And whereas by letter dated 5th of February 2020, the project company advised the government of the designated entity for the transfer of the said hereditaments. And whereas the proposed transfer of the said hereditaments was not completed under the terms of the 2019 Supplemental Heads of Agreement, and the said hereditaments remain vested in the Treasurer. And whereas on the 18th of September 2024, a second Supplemental Heads of Agreement, hereinafter referred to as the 2024 Supplemental Heads of Agreement, was executed between the government and the project company. And whereas pursuant to Section 2.1 of the 2024 Supplemental Heads of Agreement, the government is obligated to transfer the said hereditaments to Perfect Luck Assets Number 1 Limited, free from all liens and encumbrances, for a price of $1,600,000. And whereas by Section 55(3)(a) of the said Act, the Treasurer shall not sell or make any disposition of the fee simple of any land vested in her without the prior approval of both Houses of Parliament signified by resolution thereof, now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to Section 5(3)(a) of the Act and in consideration of the 2024 Supplemental Heads of Agreement entered into by the government, this House approves the conveyance by the Treasurer to Perfect Luck Assets Number 1 Limited of the said hereditaments for the sum of $1,600,000 in the currency of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And the second resolution, Mr. Vice President, that deals with the Rock Point property, says, whereas the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, hereinafter referred to as the Treasurer, the corporation sole established under Section 4.1 of the Ministry of Finance Act, Chapter 23, Revised Statute Law of the Bahamas 2000, hereinafter referred to as the Act, is seized in fee simple in possession of the hereditaments more particularly described in the schedule hereto, hereinafter referred to as the said hereditaments, and hereditaments just means the land, right, AJ? And whereas on September 11th, 2025, a memorandum of understanding, hereinafter referred to as the MOU, was executed between the Ministry of Public Works and Family Island Affairs, hereinafter referred to as government, and VACUS Limited, hereinafter referred to as VACUS. And whereas all that portion of West Bay Street, including the existing roadway, situate between the area labeled Rock Point Project Site, hereinafter referred to as the site, on the plan attached at Annex 1, is in need of safety enhancement for road users and pedestrians who use West Bay Street, including the existing roadway. The existing roadway and site are shown in greater detail on the plan attached. And whereas VACUS, in collaboration with the ministry, proposes to undertake the work necessary to fully realign the existing roadway as per the design on the plan attached, hereto at 2.1, for the benefit of road users, visitors, and the Bahamian public. And whereas the government and VACUS have agreed that prior to the commencement of works necessary for the realignment, VACUS will convey to the treasurer all that piece, parcel, or lot of land comprising a total of 44,639 square feet, shown on the plan yellow, colored yellow with red hatched lines on the land exchange plan, being the land necessary to create a new road reservation in accordance with the realignment plan as described in the first schedule. And whereas in exchange for a total of 44,639 square feet of land, the treasurer will convey to VACUS all that piece, parcel, or lot of land comprising 34,123 square feet, shown on the plan, which shall no longer be used by the public following completion of the realignment as described in the second schedule here too. And whereas the realignment is in the public interest, as it will enhance road safety and improve utility service. And whereas the realignment shall comply with the requirements of all relevant government agencies, including the Ministry of Public Works and Family Island Affairs, Ministry of Transport and Local Government, Ministry of Tourism and Aviation, Department of Physical Planning, Department of Lands and Surveys, and shall conform with the requirements, if any, imposed by the Department of Environmental Planning and Protection, DEP. And whereas by Section 5.3a of the said Act, the Treasurer shall not sell or make any disposition of the fee simple of any land vested in her without the prior approval of both Houses of Parliament, signified by resolution thereof. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to Section 5.3a of the Act, and in consideration of the MOU entered into by the government, this House approves the land exchange by which the Treasurer conveys the land in the first schedule to VACUS, and VACUS conveys the land in the second schedule to the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And so, Mr. Vice President, those are the two resolutions. We would like to debate them as one, with the concurrence of the side opposite, and I will shed some more light on both proposals.
Is there concurrence from the opposition?
Yes, Mr. Vice President, we concur.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Much obliged. Mr. Vice President, I will deal firstly with the matter of what we will call the Bahamas exchange. And so, Mr. Vice President, the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, as a corporation sole, under Section 4.1 of the Ministry of Finance Act, holds in fee simple a parcel of land described in the schedule to the resolution that I read, a little over 2.077 acres on the southern side of West Bay Street in western New Providence, adjacent to the Malia site and what we call the Bahamas campus. Mr. Vice President, on the 16th of October 2019, a supplemental heads of agreement was executed between the government and the government of the Bahamas and the Bahama Ownership Group, including CTF-BM Holdings, CTF-BM Operations, and Perfect Luck, and several Perfect Luck entities that as I indicated, 1, 2, 3, etc. Under Section 2.1 of that 2019 agreement, the government undertook to convey this specific parcel described in the resolution as the said hereditaments to an entity to be designated by the project company free of liens and encumbrances to support the proper redevelopment of the site. In February 2020, the project company wrote to the government identifying the entity to which the land should be conveyed. That transfer never occurred, and so the land remained vested in the treasurer. On 18 September 2024, the government of the Bahamas executed a second supplemental heads of agreement with the project company, and under Section 2.1 of that agreement, the government is now obligated to transfer the same hereditaments to Perfect Luck Assets Number 1 Limited, free from liens and encumbrances, for a price of 1.6 million Bahamian dollars. And so, Mr. Chairman, Vice President, the Ministry of Finance Act is clear. Section 5.3A, as indicated in the resolution, states that the treasurer shall not sell or otherwise dispose of any land vested in the treasurer without the prior approval of both houses of Parliament signified by resolution thereof. And so the resolution before us on the Bahama matter does three things. It recognizes and gives effect to the 2024 second supplemental heads of agreement. It regularizes the position of a parcel that should have been conveyed, and it provides the statutory approval, legal approval required under Section 5.3A for the treasurer to complete the conveyance to Perfect Luck Assets Number 1 Limited for $1.6 million. That is the legal side, Mr. Vice President. The practical side is that this land is important for the upcoming expansion of the Bahamas site, the next phase that will see the expansion of the Bahamas site and the creation of additional economic activity, inclusive of construction, jobs, entrepreneurial activities, etc. The government of the Bahamas and Bahamas have signed a heads of agreement for a further expansion of the former Malia site, and groundbreaking is expected early in 2026. It is a $350 million capital investment that will bring a fourth luxury resort and about 50 branded residences to 12 acres along Cable Beach. So this parcel, the transfer of this parcel is critical to facilitate that expansion. The new resort is designed by the firm Foster and Partners, will include approximately 350 rooms, 4 new restaurants, including a rooftop omakase experience, that is, and a beachfront restaurant with a celebrity chef, a 14,000 square foot spa and fitness center, luxury retail, pools, an outdoor bar, entertainment lounges, and 25,000 square feet of event space with 10,000 square foot ballroom. And as I said, groundbreaking is expected, I think, in February 2026, and opening is targeted for 2029. The project is expected to create significant employment, 400 during the construction phase, and over 500 permanent jobs once it is fully open. And so, for this next phase to function properly, it is necessary to transfer this 2.077 acres so that redevelopment can happen in a manner that is that causes minimal disruption to that West Bay Street site. And so that is what the intention is for the Bahamas, the sale of that land to Bahamas, Mr. Vice President. And if I move to the what I would call the Rock Point land exchange, Madam President, sorry, Mr. Vice President, apologies. Mr. Vice President, the Rock Point, what I would call the Rock Point resolution, supports the government's approval for a road rerouting and full realignment of the existing West Bay Street roadway at a location that is currently geometrically unsafe and vulnerable to flooding. And we know that that bit of the road that is just before Sea Beach and on West Bay Street, where it floods significantly. The persons who drive this road during heavy rainfall understand the amount of flooding that occurs in this area. There are various engineering challenges related to the road, Mr. Vice President, that I shan't go into, but suffice it to say that the Ministry of Works has done their study, and they have recommended a realignment of the road. This is something that has literally been under consideration at various levels since the 1960s. And it was further discussion during the New Providence Road Works. It never advanced because of some difficulties with the contractor. And so the Rock Point project, which makes this realignment necessary, Mr. Vice President. There's a land exchange, as I indicated. The government will give up 34,000 square feet roughly and receive 44,000 square feet. The developer of the project will be responsible for all of the expenses related to road design, construction, relocation of the utilities, drainage improvement. And as I said, the government receives 44,639 square feet of land, and the developer will receive 34,123 in exchange. The government will be responsible for the utility materials and street lighting on the realignment. This realignment is in the public interest, Mr. Vice President, as it enhances road safety, traffic flow, flood resilience, and emergency response access. The question came up, Mr. Vice President, during the discussion of this as to beach access, and not only access, because we know when we get to that section, it's a rocky section, but beach view, ocean view, being able to drive past and look over and see the water, Mr. Vice President. We were very strong on that, and so this realignment allows very strong on no realignment that would diminish, people's view. I drive that way to work in the morning, and it's very pleasant to be able to look over and just look at the water. And people stop and park and have lunch and have breakfast and meditate, read a book, and we didn't want any diminution of that experience and people being able to just sit and look out and catch the cool breeze. And so we were very strong on that, and this realignment allows for easier access to the beach. As a part of the infrastructural improvement is to provide a parking area, and the area in front of the beach has been deemed a no-bill zone. And so the important thing I wanted to say there, Mr. Vice President, is that no reduction in not only access, but visibility. Those who drive past and look and experience that. And so that's very important. And so the redirection, there will be a redirection, but the road will come back right at the point where now people enjoy the views, and there will be an enhanced parking area there for people to stop and park and enjoy and come out and walk. And so, Mr. Vice President, those are the two resolutions before us. We think both are in the interest of the country. The first one, the Bahamas one, supports an expansion that will create more economic activity. The second creates a safer road experience, enhances drainage, and as well enhances access to the waterfront for Bahamians to enjoy, Mr. Vice President. And so I will formally just move, I'll move them both, move them one by one, obtain a second, and then we will invite to debate. And so for what I will style the Bahama resolution, Mr. Vice President, whereas I'll read the first and the last. Whereas the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, hereinafter referred to as the Treasurer, a corporation sole established under Section 4.1 of the Ministry of Finance Act, Chapter 23, Revised Statute Law of the Bahamas 2000, hereinafter referred to as the Act, is seized in fee simple in possession of the hereditaments more particularly described in the schedule hereinafter referred to as the said hereditaments. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to Section 5, subsection 3A of the Act, and in consideration of the 2024 Second Supplemental Heads of Agreement entered into by the government, this House approves the conveyance by the Treasurer the Perfect Luck Assets Number 1 Limited of the said hereditaments for the sum of $1,600,000 in the currency of the Bahamas.
Second.
Second, that's what, the Bahama resolution? Yes. Just so the general public is clear on a couple of points on that, I won't take but 2 or 3 minutes. This is subject to land that was acquired from Bahamar as part of the highway project back in, I think it was 2011. No compensation was ever paid for that acquisition by government for that purpose. And then in 2019, under the F&M administration is when the supplemental heads of agreement was entered into, agreeing that instead of compensation, because interest was running and everything else was running, that there would be this exchange or conveyance of land as compensation for that. And just to put some comfort, because I did hear the debate in the other place, at the time there were appraisals that were presented to government to demonstrate that the valuation was akin from what was acquired versus what is now being conveyed as compensation for that acquisition. So that was done completely as well. And just with those comments of clarification for the Bahamian people, I second the resolution.
Yes, thank you. And so, thank you for that, and Mr. Attorney. And so, Mr. Vice President, I'll just make the second one. Second resolution, obtain a second, and then we can commence with the debate. And so the second resolution is the Rock Point development. Whereas the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, hereinafter referred to as the Treasurer, a corporation sole established under Section 4.1 of the Ministry of Finance Act, Chapter 23, Revised Statute Law of the Bahamas, 2000, hereinafter referred to as the Act, is seized in fee simple in possession of the said hereditaments, more particularly described in the schedule hereto, hereinafter referred to as the said hereditaments. Now be it therefore resolved that pursuant to Section 5, subsection 3A of the Act, and in consideration of the MOU entered into by the government, this House approves the land exchange by which the Treasurer conveys the lands in the first schedule to VACIS, and VACIS conveys the lands in the second schedule to the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Is there a seconder?
I second that, that resolution as well. Just to bring a little bit of clarification on that as well, we should note that the land, that this is a swap of land on this transaction. The government's giving land in exchange for land and for the road redirection. And we are actually receiving more acreage in this swap than we are giving up within the same area. So we're actually getting more value than we're giving up for the purposes of this swap, but it's going to be a tremendous benefit to all those who drive, as the minister said, down that causeway, especially in times of flooding, or also in times of heavy storms from the north that break over the water there. And just for a last piece of clarification, we have expanded as part of this transaction. We have caused the developer to expand the amount of parking and the amount of accessibility that exists there now as a result of this swap. So there will actually be more space for Bahamians as a result of this transaction rather than less space. I did hear that brought up by the white man in that other jurisdiction, that other place. Thank you. I so second.
With the concurrence of the opposition, it has been moved and seconded that the following resolutions be agreed. The first resolution, whereas the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, a corporation sole established under Section 4.1 of the Ministry of Finance Act, Chapter 2, Revised Statute Law of the Bahamas, 2000, is seized in fee simple in possession of the hereditaments more particularly described in the schedule hereto. Now, therefore, be it resolved that pursuant to Section 5(3)(a) of the Act, and in consideration of the 2024 SSHOA entered into by the government, this House approves the conveyance by the Treasurer to Perfect Luck Assets Number 1 Limited of the said hereditaments for the sum of $1,600,000 in the currency of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And the second resolution being, whereas the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, a corporation sole established under Section 4.1 of the Ministry of Finance Act, Chapter 23, Revised Statute Law of the Bahamas 2000, is seized in fee simple in possession of the hereditaments more particularly described in the schedules hereto. Now, therefore, be it resolved that pursuant to Section 5(3)(a) of the Act, and in consideration of the MOU entered into by the government, this House approves the land exchange by which the Treasurer conveys the lands in the first schedule to Bacchus, and Bacchus conveys the lands in the second schedule to the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. As many, the Chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Reuben Ramming.
Thank you very much. I rise in support of both resolutions. And just to raise a question in the public interest to the AG, land work has been done as relate to the residents concerned in the Nassau Village Pinewood Gardens Association, which has spanned multiple administration. Tremendous work has been done. We all know it's a very complicated process. There have been still many inquiring that have not gotten their land papers, and then some had concerns as related to seeing real property tax applied to their land, even though they still have not gotten the papers, they're getting a tax bill. I want to thank the AG in advance because we have been very transparent in this regard in terms of doing the best to keep persons up to date. And I sit with that point to give the AG a time to add any information or address that concern.
The Chair recognizes
Just if I
Senator
might.
the Honorable Ryan Pindo.
Okay, thank you so much. And thanks for the question, Senator. And yes, we have been working. I've been providing the updates as deemed necessary and as you've requested along the way. We actually have some very good news within the last couple of weeks on this matter. And for those who are trying to follow, this has to do with the matter related to Arawak Homes and the title being flawed, and trying to clean that up, and the agreement that was reached by the government of the Bahamas. I say the government because both administrations were involved in that process. Last update was we were waiting on inland revenue to resolve issues related to both the transfer tax, because it's actually a conveyance of property, as well as some of the real property tax issues that you had brought up. I'm pleased to say, thanks to my good friend here, who has helped facilitate this along the way, that we have reached an agreement with inland revenue on the transfer tax, that there will effectively be a nominal value placed on this transaction, and so there would be no transfer tax per se. With respect to the real property tax, we've identified those who are owner-occupied homes, and therefore, as an owner-occupied home, there would not be any real property tax applicable on that. Now, to those who have not occupied the place, there is a issue with respect to any real property tax arrears that may be owed that we will work through with the respective property owner on that. Given that this was the last hurdle to get over, the first batch, which are some 25 or 30 odd conveyances, we hope to be able to deliver to those homeowners in the early new year, in January sometime, and then facilitate, now that we have an inland revenue position on this issue, facilitate the second batch very shortly thereafter. And so we hope, although we were trying to make it a early Christmas present for some of the homeowners, it will be certainly a majority rule-ish timeline present for them to be able to get the conveyances that have been long outstanding for these homeowners. And we look to resolve that issue. The PLP government, the former PLP government, was the government that facilitated the settlement and charting the path to this. The last F&M government, shortly after the election, concluded the agreement, and it is this PLP government that will deliver it across the finish line. Thank you very much.
The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Maxine Seymour.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Vice President, I rise to contribute on this compendium of land resolutions. And with your leave, right before I do so, I want to acknowledge the presence in the gallery this morning of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and thank them officially for this lovely pink rose that I was gifted along with fellow female senators, and also say to them that I look forward to reading this book from them, the commemorative anthology of speeches that reflect the presentations during the mock parliamentary session by AKA in the spring last year. I really look forward to it because focusing on inspiring inclusion and driving new change in women's health is a very important topic. And so I want to commend them for this publication, for sharing it with us here, and to say that I look forward to digging in. And of course, I don't know whether or not they brought this with them as a decoy or whether they really came to support, you know, the new senator or not. But either way, we were happy to have them here this morning, and I do look forward to reading the book. Mr. Vice President, I'd also like to say that earlier I managed to slip out to go to Government House to celebrate along with the Bahamas AIDS Foundation while they paid tribute and homage to so many persons who have contributed to the fight against HIV and AIDS in our country over the past 40 years since the first diagnosis or the first case here. And I really want to say, and there were so many persons honored, but I really want to tip my hat to them because the work that they did over these past 4 decades is a yeoman's task. Needless to say, of course, they did start out by honoring Dr. Michael Perry Gomez, a moment of silence as well. His daughter was there, his wife was there to receive on his behalf, and then so many others were honored. People we sometimes forget, you know, like Cliffy the barber, like so many nurses, Nurse Marva Jervis, and just so many others who were recognized there today. And again, they're the pillars, they're the people like Dr. Percival McNeil, and so many others who were recognized today. Too many to call, Dr. Orlando and others, but I really want to say to all of them, Nurse Rosemary Bain and everybody who over the past 40 years have really helped, you know, Camille, Lady Barnett, and like I said, the list goes on because there were some 40, including corporate partners, that we thank you for the work that you do, and just like HIV and AIDS and so many other things that have stigma surrounding it. You know, I've heard the story so many times, including at his funeral service, for somebody like Dr. Gomez that the minister spoke of as his friend to give up his lucrative practice and start really championing the health rights and access to health care for persons with HIV. Of course, that's going to place a certain stigma and economic impact on his practice. And that's so many others who stood up for persons over the years who were infected with and affected by HIV and AIDS. And so the struggle continues, and hopefully one day, very soon, HIV will be a thing of the past. But I do commend the foundation and the National HIV/AIDS Center, the ministry, the PHA, and all those who support the fight. Mr. Vice President, needless to say, we support these 2 resolutions and the conveyance of these hereditaments that are being discussed here today. First, the Bahamas, the expansion of the Malia site and all that is to come of that in terms of, as mentioned, you know, new employment opportunities and new access to other tourism markets, and just to help our tourism product in general in terms of improving it. And then the other, you know, conveyance that's necessary for the safety, the safe redevelopment and rerouting of that particular street, that road, and to avoid flooding. And of course, as mentioned, you know, it's a land swap. And so, and in the other case, we're obviously giving the land to avoid having to pay the debt. And we, in the opposition, we support it. And we recognize that, of course, as mentioned, that the safety problems, the realignment of the road will address are very important to everyone who treads those roads. And we want to make sure that motorists and pedestrians alike are safe. But Mr. Vice President, I have to take a few minutes to speak, as I always do, not just for the privileged few, but for the ordinary Bahamian. And that's the straw vendor, fisherman, teacher like my mom was. I'm just a child learning to swim, or the grandmother who in her retirement just wants to sit out and enjoy the ocean breeze. And so, Mr. Vice President, whenever we come in here, these resolutions are not simply about land, because when we look at them on paper, they map the coordinates, they photocopy the map, and they draw on them with yellow and red, and they start to talk about the east and the west and the southern boundaries and how many feet and points and, everything in order to identify the piece of land. But it's more than just about that land, Mr. Vice President. It's really about the dignity of our people. The justice is about the rights of Bahamians to enjoy access to certain things in their own country. And so it's important for us to always remember to prioritize those rights for citizens and residents. And so development matters, Mr. Vice President. It does. Like we said, it gives jobs, investment opportunities, but there are some things we lose with development, and that's just a fact. Studies show it. Whether that's, parts of who we really are as a society, the family structure, more people out to work. Yes, there's more economic opportunities, but sometimes our values change and what we prioritize change. And oftentimes countries, they go through all of that, chase development, do all of that just to hopefully retire on an undeveloped island or somewhere that is untouched, as so many places were before we pushed for development. But even in all of that, we have to make sure that we don't strip away. And I heard it referenced, yes, thankfully in this case, it will allow for, more parking. But we can't rob Bahamians of their birthright, because progress, Mr. Vice President, cannot be measured in fenced-out beaches or people being pushed out of parks and community spaces, or even just being allowed like mere scraps of public access. So, Mr. Vice President, when we pass these resolutions, when we transfer the land of Bahamians to developers, we have to remember all of that. And I'll tell you, I long for the day, and I heard it referenced, and I hope it does come soon. I long for the day when we meet to pass resolutions to convey hereditaments to Bahamians, Bahamian developers. Bahamian families who've lived on land since forever, crown land and otherwise, and don't have the conveyance documents, don't have the papers to it. Because, of course, we all love, and welcome developers, international investors, because we do need them. But Bahamians have to be empowered as well in the Bahamas. We have to be able to sit here and pass resolutions to do that. And so whether it's the Pinewood one, whether it's Crown Land, whether it's the Bahamian investors, Mr. Vice President, whether it's the Bahamian restaurant owners who want to, allow access to native dishes. Let's pass the resolutions on that to give some land to Bahamians. That's what I'm interested in doing, Mr. Vice President. And we do have to be careful when it comes to our beaches and access to beaches in this country and all across our archipelago. But in New Providence in particular, there are so many limited spaces left. And no matter how you put it, in my mind, it's unfair for, whoever it is, whether it's the luxury homeowner or the person in the condo or the seasonal visitor, the tourist, to just be able to walk out and enjoy stretches of shoreline. And while we're confined to, a few, just a mere handful of crowded beaches, Mr. Vice President, that's not equity. Not for Bahamians, that's exclusion, not inclusion. And I'll tell you, exclusion, it breeds resentment, alienation, and loss of identity. And not just that, of the minimal public beaches that are left here, whether it's Saunders Beach, Goodman's Bay, or wherever we all jam up, Goodman's Bay is turning into a commercialized setting. In the day you go there, and there are, chairs for sale, all sorts of things going on. And so what's left for us? How do we get access? Yes, this is important, but how do we ensure that we have access to the beaches? Because we are Bahamian, we deserve access to the beaches. We live in an archipelago, we live on an island. We shouldn't have to search and drive round and around to look for a parking spot or look for a little spot on the beach when everything is gone. Mr. Vice President. That's unacceptable. And so, as we consider resolutions, we have to also consider access as mandatory, as part of it, Mr. Vice President, because land is all we have. That's our, that's where our culture starts. That's our heritage. It's where families gather, where they thrive, where communities thrive. And so when we transfer land without ironclad protections, and I'm not talking but some agreements, I'm talking written out in black and white protections for public access, then we are moving more than just the boundaries on the map, but we're really eroding the very soul of our great Commonwealth. And Mr. Vice President, it's nothing new, but I will reemphasize it today. Not only is public access to beaches for Bahamians important, and we talk about up to the high water mark, but you got to get to the high water mark, and you can't get there by drone. So we have to avoid whatever obstructions exist that allow people to get to the beaches. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again and again and again. It's important on an island to have lifeguards on our beaches. It's important for safety, for citizens, for residents and visitors alike. It's important to have trained lifeguards because lifeguards save lives. Clear signage. We have to have the facilities maintained, Mr. Vice President, so families can enjoy the spaces safely. And whether that's bathroom access, whether that's the trash being carted away, whether that's just perusing the sand with a metal detector to make sure that nobody gets cut, okay? Because obviously if there's trash left on the shoreline, then it can end up in the water and impact our marine resources. So while these two resolutions, for example, when Bahama expands on the Malia site, those beaches that the tourists will, or whoever decides they'll stay at Bahama will access, they will have lifeguards on them. They will make sure that the trash is moved. They will check it to make sure that there's nothing there to cause any liability. They will make sure that there are, access to restroom facilities and all of that. That's what will happen. And the persons who rent the rooms on the ocean front, they will have a nice view. And they will be able to smell the fresh ocean air. But Mr. Vice President, the citizens and residents deserve those same privileges. They deserve to know that when they go to the public beaches or whatever beaches are available, that the watercraft operators are properly policed, Mr. Vice President, and regulated, okay? So that when you're swimming with your child or elderly person, that nobody is coming up, almost up basically to the shoreline with a jet ski or whatever other watercraft and putting you in danger. Because these things impact lives. People end up injured. People end up, fatally injured. And these things matter. Bahamians must matter in the Bahamas. They must matter the same way everybody else matters. Yes, tourism is our number one priority. And for one moment, I wouldn't at all object to us prioritizing tourism because it's our bread and butter. Whether it's the straw vendor, whether it's the taxi driver, whether it's the space cleaner, something about politics, and I commend my former Senate colleague, the new member of Parliament for Golden Isles. But one thing about politics, we do good to paint our stories. And so whether it's the space cleaner at the hotel, Mr. Vice President, whether it's the housekeeper, whoever it is, tourism helps our economy thrive. And we know that, Mr. Vice President. But the same privileges we afford to our visitors, to our guests, must also be reserved for Bahamian citizens and residents. And that's why we must upkeep our public parks, our beaches. We have to not just to upkeep them, really make sure that nothing nefarious is going on, because sometimes people gather on the beaches for less than productive things. And so that impacts families who want to have a good and decent time on the beach. And so whether it's, explicit lyrics playing loudly, whether some people get to the beach to engage in recreational use of certain substances, or whatever it is they go to the beach for, we have to manage our beach spaces, because the same way Bahama will when they get into this phase with the former Malia site, the same way they will make sure that there's a wholesome environment is the same way we need it on our public beaches too. That's the same way we need to make sure that our water sport operators are regulated and that lifeguards are present and that there's access for, persons with disabilities, ramps, and things like that, Mr. Vice President. And so, for me, it's not about rejecting development because, like I said, development is important. But all of our development must always be people-centered, it must be safety-centered, and it must maintain the dignity of the Bahamian people, not for us to feel as strangers in our own land, but to really have access to the rights that we deserve. So whenever we do, whatever we do here, Mr. Vice President, we have to keep everyone on all of the islands prioritized. And so, yes, we support these two resolutions because the road will bring additional safety in terms of the motorists, and it does allow us to have 30% more land. Of course, that's just the quantifiable amount in terms of the value of land. We hope that it's also equal. And of course, the Bahama expansion we support as well. But we want to make sure that in the way we support these things, we also support Bahamian citizens and residents, and that hopefully very soon, as the AG has promised, that we will be conveying land to hard-working Bahamian citizens who it's long overdue. And so we look forward to those conveyances to Bahamians, Mr. Vice President. And like others before me, I too want to take a moment to extend holiday greetings to everyone across our Commonwealth because, Mr. Vice President, the holidays are an important time. And so for me, it's about all the islands. It's about the 700 islands, the whole archipelago. And I'll tell you, I want to take a moment to remind everyone, Mr. Vice President, about Bethlehem. Because the reality is, Christmas is almost as commercialized as Goodman's Bay, as I just talked about. Everybody knows how to do things. In the malls, they pipe the cinnamon in their air conditioning vents, and you smell pine in places, and they have the lighting fixed a certain way, and in the retail stores, everybody knows how to, get those end caps and put those impulse products in those right positionings and really just market to people because it's the festive time. It's a time when people seem to set aside their differences and just be a little bit more amiable, and that's all important. But I want us to always remember the reason for the season. That Christmas is all about Christ. And that's why it's called Christ Mass. Okay? Christ with us. And so let's not forget for a moment to celebrate Jesus' birth and to remember that he came to this earth for us. And he came as a baby, but of course he grew to be an adult. And then he made the ultimate sacrifice for all of us. And so I want to wish the very best at Christ Mass to all of the Bahamians, all of the citizens, all of the residents across our archipelago. I want to say better than that. I want to say Merry Christmas to everyone in Auckland. Merry Christmas to those in Andros. I want to say Merry Christmas to those in the Berry Islands. Merry Christmas to everyone in Bimini. Merry Christmas to the Cat Islanders. Come on over soon. Come on over. We love you. We want you. We here for you. Merry Christmas to Crooked Island, Mr. Vice President. Merry Christmas to Eleuthera. Merry Christmas to Exuma, my mother's land of birth. Merry Christmas to Grand Bahama, Senator Russell. Merry Christmas to everyone in Inagua, all the way in the south. Flamingos and all. Turkey at Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to those in Long Island, Senator Young. Merry Christmas to everyone in Mayaguana. Merry Christmas to those in New Providence and all the constituencies in New Providence. And yes, Merry Christmas to those in Seabreeze. They're still very dear to my heart. Merry Christmas to everyone in Ragged Island. And let's all work across the aisle to bring better resolution to some of the nagging and vexing issues that impact Bahamians on other islands, Mr. Vice President. Because it's very hard to lose a loved one. And it's only impounded when we have to experience certain things as recently experienced. I haven't forgotten Rumkey, Mr. Vice President. So Merry Christmas to those in Rumkey. Merry Christmas to those in San Salvador, especially in United States. And Mr. Vice President, Merry Christmas to those in Abaco. Mr. Vice President, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. Those on Paradise Island, wherever you find yourself in this archipelago, I want you to remember, even in Spanish Isles, Harbor Island, wherever you are, Mr. Vice President, I wish you the absolute best at Christmas and always. And as we prepare to start a new year, Mr. Vice President, I want us all to pause and reflect at where we are. And just yesterday, Mr. Vice President, was Human Rights Day. And I really want us to all consider how we could, as the chaplain would have said, how could we give more of ourselves? How could we do it even anonymously? How could we make the Bahamas and ultimately the world a better place? And so may God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. May God bless the Prime Minister, the Cabinet, the senators. May God bless the leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition, Honorable Michael C. Pintard. May God bless all of you, my fellow senators, the parliamentary staff, and everybody who continues to serve to help create a better Bahamas, a Bahamas for all Bahamians, and a special shout out to all the persons with disabilities, the children, the elderly. Please, Mr. Vice President, through you, I really want to remind persons that, yes, it's a difficult time for some, okay, because the holidays, you know, there's economic and other pressure, and it does take special grace to be a caregiver, but please do not abuse our elderly persons, okay? They deserve better. So be kind to the elderly, to the children, to persons with disabilities who depend on you. Don't take your frustrations out on them. Please do not do that, okay? That's my caution to everyone. And if your neighbors, be neighborly. Listen out. Look out for people. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until the police show up at your neighbor's house only to hear that that person could not take it anymore. And so they decided to end it all. So at Christmas, let's be neighborly. Let's look out for each other. Let's share. Let's love. Let's bring back the good old days, Mr. Vice President. Even before the development and the money and the jobs and the latest cell phone, where we just looked out for each other. Where if somebody harvested something from their tree, they said, you see my grandmother in Exuma? She could take a mint and she could shatter it in but 20 pieces. Let's bring back those days at Christmas, Mr. Vice President, where we share, where we look out for each other, where we have each other's back, where we care more, Mr. Vice President. And so I thank God again for the privilege of being born in the Bahamas, because I could have been born in any one of 199 countries. So I'm happy to be Bahamian, and I'm happy to have had this opportunity to contribute to these two land resolutions that will allow for the safe redevelopment of that roadway, as well as the expansion of Bahamar on the former Malia site. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Senator. In relation to the first resolution that was read into debate, which has been dubbed the Bahamar Exchange, as many are in favor say aye. Those who oppose say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed. In relation to the second resolution that was read into the debate, dubbed the Rock Point Development, as many are in favor say aye. Those who are opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed. Further resolutions?
There are none at this time, Mr. Vice President.
Discharge of select committees. Notices for future meetings.
Renew all notices in the name of the government, Mr. Vice President.
Orders for clerk. Adjournment.
Mr. Vice President, I move that the Senate at its rising do adjourn sine die.
Is there a seconder? It has been moved and seconded that the Senate at its rising do adjourn sine die. As many are in favor say aye. Those who are opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Final adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I move the final adjournment, we expect to be back here, Lord willing, in the new year. I I just wanted to take this opportunity to wish all my Senate colleagues and indeed staff and the wider Bahamian public, inclusive of the wonderful people of St. Barnabas, a very Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous New Year. Mr. Vice President, I had the opportunity yesterday to have lunch with the Speaker and several senators and members of Parliament. It was a great time of camaraderie. Later on yesterday evening, we shared with the Customs Department, and they were joined by their law enforcement partners at their Christmas tree lighting. And then to top it all off, Mr. Vice President, I had the great pleasure of attending the Yellow Elder Primary School Christmas production. And there's nothing that lifts the spirit, Mr. Vice President, than seeing our young children performing all of the excitement and joy that they bring in performing their skits and their poems and their, like we used to say in the old days, their recitation. And so I just want to congratulate them, school board, the PTA, the principal for putting on, and the staff, of course, and the teachers and support staff for putting on a wonderful presentation. Before I sit, Mr. Vice President, I want to invite all St. Barnabas, the entire St. Barnabas community to a night of Christmas music on the 18th of December at the Big Pond Park, and then a Christmas party for the children on the 20th of December on the Edmund Moxie Park. All are welcome, Mr. Vice. 20th, 20. All are welcome. And we will be moving throughout the community, spreading Christmas cheer beginning next week. So, again, getting there. All right? And so, thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Merry Christmas to you and your family, all senators, and indeed the wider Bahamian community.
The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Darren Henfield.
Thank you, Mr. Vice. I, too, would like to join my esteemed colleague, the leader of government business in this place, and saying a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to each of you. We have our battles, but we are nonetheless Bahamians fighting for the cause of the people and in the interest of the people. And so we pray that this festive season is good for all Bahamians from Inagua to Abaco. It took you a while, Senator Seymour, to say Abaco. But you know, I want to extend a special Christmas greeting to South Beach and to say to the children there that we are going to have a children's party for Christmas on the 20th. We shall have turkey and ham for the adults. And they should come out between 2 and 4. For as long as supplies last, we will be there. A Merry Christmas to all, and to all a pleasant good night.
Final adjournment. You move. Oh. Chair recognizes Senator the Honorable J.Ann Major.
Mr. Vice President, thank you. Before we close, I too just wanted to extend holiday greetings to my Senate colleagues. During this time, most times you find it difficult for those of us who are mourning family members. My father has been gone many years. He died when I was 15 years old. I turned 40 this year, and I can tell you every year around this time, it's still hard. You feel the loss. So for those who may be mourning loved ones and family members, I encourage everybody to try to find ways to keep your spirits up, and I hope everybody has a safe and enjoyable holiday season. I am saying that for myself.
Final adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move that the Senate do now adjourn.
Is there a seconder? It has been moved and seconded that the Senate do now adjourn. As many are in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. The motion is agreed. The Senate stands adjourned. Happy holidays.